Let's get out a sheet of paper that's clean and fresh, has no other writing on it. You may need several sheets of paper. And then you're going to need something to write with. So how many people do not have clean sheets of paper? Raise your hand. Okay, how many people wish to loan these esteemed members some paper? Loan in this case means give. Okay, because you may not get it back. Give. Yeah, okay, yeah, an iPad. Good idea, yes. You know, pieces of paper or something similar like an iPad. Everybody has something to write with, either physical writing or electronic. For the most part, I'm talking to the temple presidents, the project leaders, zonal people. That encompasses most of you, okay? How many people here feel that they should put together a strategic plan on their own with no help from anybody? Please raise your hand. Some people do that. I sometimes do that. Put together plans. No, usually it has something to do with my company where, you know, fine. So the rest of us, we're going to put these plans together with people, right? With other devotees. Get a sheet of paper, start listing out right now the names of those people that you feel are the best people or the most strategic people or the most valuable people for helping you as being a team. A local strategic planning team. Start writing out their names right now. Sometimes we pick team members simply because they can help us and we know that they can help us. Sometimes we pick team leaders because they have a strong area of influence in the temple and it's politically wise, so to speak. Now, I'm saying so to speak because we are not politicians, but because they have gained a certain sphere of influence and power by way of their preaching, by way of their purity, by way of whatever, we had best include them as team members. So in this way, there's a number of different reasons why we would be choosing team members, okay? How many people have now a list? How many people do not? I keep have to ask things in negative. How many people want more time figuring out who their team should be? Okay, you got, so you already have pretty much clarity on who's who in your team, yeah? Good. Here's a quote from Prabhupada from the Madhya Lila, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, 151-52. For any idea, program, plan, or device, there is first of all the contemplation of the plan, and that is called bija, or the seed. Go ahead and flip to the next slide. So we've identified some project. Maybe it's your temple, maybe it's a project that you're working on, whatever. You want to plan it with yourself or with your team, okay, who could be on your team, and you've listed them. Let's move to the next topic. So why them? I've stated a couple of reasons. Some other reasons why you might choose a team member, or why you chose the people that you chose, yes? Yeah, they're go-getters. They're people who can accomplish something because we need to get something done. So it's a very, very good reason. Why else would we choose a team leader? Yes? I can't hear you. Okay, they'll cooperate. Okay, you can assign them, yes. They're knowledgeable and visionary. Great, yes?
Their abilities.
They have abilities, good. Yes, Marge? Resourceful, good. Okay. Yes?
They're available.
They're available. Very good. Sometimes they're just available. Should he?
They have connections to non-author groups or environmental
They have
groups.
other connections. Good. These are all reasons why we would be choosing some people. Okay? Next slide. Strategic planning model. So we're now going to flip next one. Good. Environmental scan. So on this sheet here, I've got 4 points on environmental scan. Audience analysis, competitive analysis, identification of market segments, trend analysis. What's an audience analysis? Any idea what those words mean?
Who you're preaching to?
Who are we preaching to? If we're preaching. But this assumes, environmental scanning assumes a certain amount of preaching. So who are we wishing to preach to? Now, generally speaking, we want to preach to anybody, right? Old, young, male, female, rich, poor, whatever. What did Prabhupada first say when he said to himself, obviously, because he was kind of hanging out with himself at the time. But he's on the ship and he's doing a little bit of writing here and there, and he's planning on coming into Boston. And what was his plan to preach to? Was it just anybody that he met? No, it wasn't the hippies. He wanted to preach to very high-class intellectual people. That's what he wanted to target, okay? How long did he go after that class of people? Anybody? About 9 months. Before he started to say, you know, this is not to be gross, but in marketing, okay, no, it would be too gross, never mind. So anyway, all of a sudden he shifted. Where did he shift? To the hippies. That was his second thing. He said, okay, the hippies they're interested. Okay, fine, we're going to market to the hippies. So he started with identifying his audience. Subsequently, he shifted. You got to have a sense of who you want to preach to. Why? Why do we want to have a sense of who to preach to? Focus. Why else? Huh? Receptivity. Yes, good. Receptivity. Yes. A different strategy for a different kind of person. A different kind of voice. A different kind of relevancy. Okay? We want to be relevant. So if I'm an older person and I'm speaking to younger people, I better figure out how to at least try to relate a little bit to a younger person. Otherwise, they're going to be sitting around saying, oh, this guy's just an old guy, 61 years old, who needs to hear from him. Or alternatively, I may choose to get some 25-year-old people fired up and send the 25-year-old older people to go and talk to the younger people instead of me talking to them. So anyway, that's the point. So, I'm going too slow. Competitive analysis, we don't use too much of a competitive analysis, but it is good to know who else is out there that's preaching, that's having some success. Identifying all of your market segments, who are the different classes of people that you want to see, what are the trends, what's a trend? Can anybody tell me a trend that's going on in their country right now, or in their city? Yes?
Environmentalism?
Environmentalism is a trend, okay? And a pretty strong trend. And we ought not to just ignore it, okay? If we're serving out our Sunday feast with styrofoam cups, you know, we're a little bit behind the scene, and even if we're not like totally onto a trend, we could be alienating some people. Anybody ever sail out into the middle of the Pacific Ocean? Nobody? Do you know how big the size of Texas is? Huge. Texas is probably as big as half of Europe. Would you say? I think so.
It's the biggest U.S. state.
Yeah. So imagine half the size of Europe, and there's this place in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. which due to the currents has all of the plastic that both all of the Orient, the Asia, and all of the US has been throwing out into the Pacific Ocean. And it's the size of half of Europe, and it's just swirling around out there, just covered with plastic. It's true, because I have sailed out into the middle of the Pacific, and I've been in the middle of an ocean of plastic. So yeah, being sensitive to environment. What other trends are there? Yoga is a trend? Good. So you got the idea. Let's stop now and we'll make some notes. Fast notes. Because the kind of notes that you're going to go back home with are just the notes necessary to remember what we're talking about. Because really what you're doing is you're going back with an outline to work with your team on. Okay? So we'll pause, you take some notes on this discussion about environmental scanning, okay? We'll give you a few minutes to take those notes.